Okay, let's call the meeting to order for Marble Valley Regional Transit District Executive Committee for Tuesday, April 7th at 9:08 a.m. Looks like we can skip intros. It's small crew today, so why don't we jump right into approval of the April 7th agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second it.
We have motions and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Approval of the March 3rd minutes. Can I get a motion there? Motion. There's second from
Second.
Matt.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public? Doesn't look like it today. All right. Executive Director's report.
Okay, just jump right in. Updates on the fairs. So the fairs have officially been publicized this week. They went out in social media, website, letters to businesses and news publications, Mountain Times and the Rutland Herald. So we'll see, we imagine we'll be getting some phone calls, questions very shortly after people start reading that. And then also, we've been working with Walmart on the Super Walmart that's coming in. They're proposing that it will be operational September 2028. So we've provided them 3 different scenarios of service and shared with them what the local match requirement would look like to add those services in. Some of them are expansions that the state's already aware of. We've been sharing that we're working with them, so they're aware there could be changes to the way the budget looks in the following year due to that expansion. And other options tie the service in, so that's really nice. Now Ops is working with the traffic flow on the proposed site plan, so that's where we're at with that. It's nice because we have plenty of time to work on this, so it doesn't feel like there's a heavy push right now, and we're staying right in pace with that.
Do you get, have they given you any indication whether they would support that financially?
So during the meetings, at first, it was with their real estate agent and, they were, learning sessions, and then he brought his lawyer in. They started talking about what the Diamond Run Mall was contributing. We made it clear why it's changed so drastically. They were saying back in 2014, it was a 16,000. Why are we asking for 172? That type of conversation.
Yeah.
So without saying yes to any of the scenarios, we seem to be moving forward. So there's this little, we have another meeting coming up with the site plan, so we're going to be talking at that time. What, have you made a decision yet, Walmart, on which scenario you're going with? But we haven't heard we're not going to go with any of these, go back to the drawing board or something like that.
Okay.
It was really a la carte. It was like, do you want it every half an hour? Do you want it on the hour? Do you want evening service? Do you need early morning service? Here's what you'll be tying into. So we gave them every option they had.
Mm-hmm.
They get to pick and choose, and then the number will mirror whatever they choose.
Is VTrans in that conversation at all?
Not yet. They're in the conversation in the background. We're representing what they fit into real time into pre-existing, which pre-existing services, i.e. like the Manchester route, the RKC and the city fix. But we've told VTrans that we're in these conversations, but we haven't had them sit in yet, no. I mean, that's actually a good idea to have them as backup, just in case they keep questioning the dynamics of the financial impacts.
Yeah, well, they review under Act 250, they review under criterion 5, which is the traffic impact. So they are going to provide input on sort of like congestion, safety, capacity, and it would be great to be aligned with that review. Chris Clow typically does that review for VTrans, so I'm sure, Ross and team can connect you. If they can't, I'm happy to. But, I think if you guys as staff and maybe us even as a board were to vote to write a formal letter to the Act 250 commission saying that, that you guys are in active conversations, but we are seeking some financial assistance to offset the impacts of this new sort of outpost. And then, we'll probably do the same thing at the RPC when we do our Act 250 review. So it would be pretty important to be aligned on that.
Okay, I do recall Joseph saying that they had they made it through their hurdles back to 50, so that's interesting that you're saying that. I don't know if that's just to proceed, and now, like you're saying, we're looking at the congestion piece of this.
They have not received a permit yet
Okay,
for the construction. They've received a permit for the demo.
okay.
So yeah, I don't think that's accurate on their end.
Well, maybe that's what he was talking about, just the demo.
Yeah, could be.
And maybe I'm just remembering it even partially, not fully remembering what he was saying about the Act 250. Just that the hurdles are fun and that they were making it through them, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll double check their application right now.
So you're saying they have it for the demo?
Yeah, they received a permit for the demo.
Hmm.
But not, construction was a separate permit. I don't see it. Let's see. Yeah, anyways, sorry.
That's great. Anything else on Walmart? Or just to look into that for now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're working on, grant applications, not just for our budget, but, local area grants. One is the BOWS. I am gonna ask you, Tyler, to give the name of the other two, if you wouldn't mind. I did not have them off the top of my head. I know one's due this Friday.
Yeah, so the one that due this Friday is through Building Better Futures. It is the Vermont Early Childhood Fund grant, the ECF, that's for food or transportation access for K through 8. And the other one, I talking about Velco?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's-
the other one is Velco, which is through, it's a charitable giving program through the Vermont Electric Company, which is just a consortium of all the electric companies in the state. And we're looking for a little bit less with that one, but a little bit more with, the ECF grant. We're looking for that one specifically to kind of expand our city backup service to kind of get it back a little bit closer to where it was before the service reductions in February. And then the Velco, which is going to our local match, and BOWS, I haven't looked too deeply into yet, so we have a little bit of time before that one's due. But I'm sure we'll find some way that is applicable to our service and eventually our budgets.
So, just some software updates. HBSS software has been moved to mid-May rollout. Chrissy's been running the staff through preliminary training and as she learns the capacity of the system so that everybody's learning in real time. And then when the trainers come in, it'll be a secondary layered approach on the training to roll it out nicely. The new program does have a scheduling optimizer. From other agencies, we've heard it takes care of about 60 plus of the scheduling, and then you just have to go in and tweak it from there. But you do have to be vigilant on making sure that you're, if something isn't running correctly or isn't linking correctly, that you make sure that we communicate it so that the changes are in. So we're looking forward to that, and hopefully gaining some efficiencies from that. Then Bamboo Payroll is still in the building phase and it's on schedule to roll out right before FY27, which is right on pace with our expectations of that program. Our FY25 audit has been submitted to the clearinghouse. It is going to most likely trigger a high risk status again, but VTrans is looking to change agency funding structure anyways to being billed rather than prepays. or maybe just having a preliminary, beginning of fiscal year prepayment and then build from there on out. So the impact's really, it's minimal impact, but we do want to turn around our status. So we're really looking forward to a really, much cleaner FY 26 audit this year. And last is, the reductions are finalized as of April 11th, when Fairhaven's weekend reductions start. So that would be the final rollout of all of the reductions. We'll be gauging those impacts at that time. That was a snapshot of some of the actions right now. There's many more, but, that's just to give a little bit of an idea of what we have going on in different departments. Any questions or anything else? Maybe it's the thing to give an update on.
I was just gonna ask the Walmart, is that gonna be an extension of an existing route or that's gonna be a new route?
It's a little bit of both, depending on what service they want. So it would be pre-existing within the city and the Rutland-Killington commuter. We would be able to tie it in until a certain time of day, where then it would become an expansion. And I have already talked to V-Trans and said, you know, would we be able to apply for CMAQ funding like we used to have on the South Extension? And sure, we'd be able to apply. Whether or not we get the funds is another matter.
And that will be driven by need, and that's gonna be determined by ridership. And so the plan, whatever it is, would be flexible enough such that we could change it if we needed to meet the need of riderships.
Yeah, so if it from 12 to 2, there was nobody and we saw that for sustained for half a year, we'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you should draw that back.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That concludes my executive report.
All right. Any questions for Jade and team? Okay. Budget review.
So,
Did you guys have a chance to review it at all? Were there any major questions before we started?
I think it'd be good to get a kind of a thorough walkthrough.
okay. I just want to start by speaking a little bit on what Ross McDonald had shared as his legislative budget. Really looking for only about a 2% increase overall. They received $500,000 in funding for above and beyond this fiscal year for O&D. And then they shift dollars by about 10% less in PM and moved that to admin. So they were even doing some shifting around. You're going to see a lot of shifting in here because Patty has been absolutely surgical in making sure that each line here represents truly what department and what operating or what expense account it really should be housed in, as well as really pulled out some of the more clumped together accounts so that we could track the spending in a much more accurate way. So would you like to start, Patty?
Well, I was just gonna say before Patty started.
Yeah.
That, you know, I'm used to seeing budgets with just numbers in it, but you've taken this to the next level in that the addition of the notes, you've answered many questions before they even asked.
That's
This
good.
is the storyboard now, not
Yeah.
just, you know, it sounds like we're getting inside your mind. You're telling us why, you know, things happen and what's being done to correct those. So job well done before we get started.
And I'd like to add too that I learned a lot about the organization through this process, even being here 6 months more than you. And so we really got to understand vendors and what we were spending and why we were spending it, and actually found a couple low hanging fruit. They weren't much, but they were these miscellaneous vendors that were just tucked into these accounts. So this is very clean and it is very accurate. And so I say, let's go. You want to start?
First of all, I'll probably just bring in a few of the things that affected this budget the most, and I think the one which, we were so hoping that the reduction of services, would really make the bottom line a little healthier than it is, but then along came the Iranian war. Our diesel fuel is up $1.25 a gallon in 3 weeks, and our gas is up 77 cents, and I think that's actually a week old, so it's probably worse than that. So unfortunately, that didn't impact our bottom line. The other big item, two big items are in payroll. One is we decided to go with just a 2% increase. We really honestly didn't think with, the other big thing is anticipating a 10%, and that was probably being cautious in healthcare. So unfortunately, as much as we'd like to help our staff deal with the cost of living that is out there right now, just had to be, we had to be frugal and cautious on everything we did.
Based on that, we did run a 3% as well.
We did.
And we filled out those numbers.
Yeah, we ran a couple of different scenarios, but without the Green Mountain Care Board, and I don't know if anybody's heard anything, but I haven't heard what they're asking for, MVP or Blue Cross right now, so. We're just doing the best we can to provide good benefits without, putting us under. In the revenue section, as Jade said, the state has already kind of told us there's not going to be much improvement at all, if any, in what they are going to be able to provide to us this year. One of the areas that we are going to see major improvement is in our donation area. Not only with the more money we're getting from Killington, but obviously we have a campaign going right now where we are really heading out into the community and saying, hey, it's really great that you're advertising in your help wanted ads that we're on the bus route. GM Kohler Rental is advertising that some of his rentals are on the bus route. So we're kind of like reaching out and going, hey, look, we're important and help. So we're hoping that's going to have, we didn't put too much hopeful income into there, but I think we're going to see some positive results with that. And also what we didn't put into here was the grants that were just talked about because they weren't solid, and that'll just be the cherry on top if we do get some of that money to help us with our bottom line. Going into labor and benefits, you'll see that the admin is being reduced. We do have one less person in the finance department now. And also in 2027, we will no longer be doing PTO buybacks. And just to give you a little information on that, the PTO buyback last year at 100%, if you take into not just the wages, but you take into Social Security, the Medicare, the 5% match, I think it added to about 160,000 last year. So we decided to roll, as we discussed in previous meetings, moving to CTO, we're moving to rollover. So the buybacks this June 30th is a half buyback, and then they will be disappearing, which I think will help a lot. It was kind of hard to do the, comparing apples to apples on a lot of these areas of expenses because of the way things were done in the past. They weren't broken down very much. We anticipate our volunteer driver reimbursements going up, mostly because right now the federal gas is 72.5. We assume at some point the federal government is going to announce a mid-year raise of the mileage reimbursement. They've done it in the past, so I'm not sure. We'll see. We got a much better by this spreadsheet here, which this is our labor and benefits worksheet. This is a detailed account of everything we pay for an employee. And, just to give you an example, what we were trying to capture here is, say one of our drivers making $26.52 an hour, who also has a family plan, has dental, has eye, contributes to our 401k, life insurance. His wages go from $26.52 to $49.49 an hour with his benefits. So that's what we were trying to capture, was the real cost of our employees. Going down the list, there's not a lot of major move around in, we just, in as far as like anything that really stood out is, here's where we're looking to save an absolute ton of money. There's a lot of movement around getting the professional services, the dues and subscriptions. We opened up accounts for software, copying, dues and subscriptions, just computer and IT, consulting, accounting, just it's security, trying to get a better idea of, you know, exactly where, because one of the questions I drove everybody crazy with is when I was going through all the details and pulling invoices, we have so much software here and it's all necessary, but we have software for the tracking the maintenance of all the vehicles, then we have software that runs the pads inside the buses, then there's a software to track the GPS, then there's a software, you know, for inside the Medicaid, and then we have HPSS, and we have, we're not right, we have Route Match, and we have 4D, and we have QuickBooks, and we have Bamboo. So we were trying to get a real good grip on where's our money going. And the other big one we have right now is our security. I mean, we pay Simquest about $100,000 a year for our firewalls, for our backup, for our protection. And as all of you probably know, Chittenden and solid waste got hit really bad last month. So we are going to not only be looking really closely at improving our firewalls, but also we are going to be having cybersecurity training for everybody here. So hopefully we don't open up that email that's going to blow us up. But, does anybody have any questions or?
So at the very bottom here, just explain to me the less carryover capital, less capital bus, Gillig off wish list. What? So it looks like total expenses 7,827,000. I get that. Total income before capital match. Can you just explain what this is showing?
So what it's saying, what we're saying is all of our expenses here includes all of the local match we would have to cover for any of our 5311 grants or some of our smaller grants. But the capital for the buses is a little different because we don't stick those expenses. This is pretty much an operating budget. The capital for the buses isn't in here. So what we needed to do was break out the local match that we are going to need to finish off some of the capital that we anticipate next year. We have a few buses that are being carried over from last year. So out of the 306, we are anticipating finishing the year with as a budget, operating budget. 166 of that is going to have to be used for local match to purchase the buses that you see on the carry. If you look at the bottom, you see carryovers. We have the local match that we need for the buses. We have an insurance bus that's coming in, finishing up the little bit of project we have over in the parking lot, the paving and things like that. And a little bit of leftover from the bus operation grant. So that 166,036 is the local match we are anticipating we're going to need in our bank account to cover these carryover capital. And then we have, we decided, even though you'll see in the capital expense for these buses for their new wish list for next year for the buses we need. Originally, we were going to have a local match of 375,000. But we decided we're only going to be able to afford to bring in 2 new Gilligs next year. And those are a 70,000 local match that we have to come up with for 2 buses, 140. So we were trying to get to a 0 net income, being cautious. We have, I believe, 9 buses on our wish list, and I shouldn't call it a wish list. What it is, you know, the state requires that we keep so much of our fleet at less than, you know, it's got to all be in good condition. You know, I'm sure you know better words to say it than I do. But Jay, why don't you explain our thinking over the next few years?
So like Patty is saying, we have about 9 buses we need to procure to stay in the state threshold of for marginal bus conditions. In the next fiscal year, we have about for more buses between Gilligs and Cutaways that we need. And then there's this 4-year break period where all of our buses are above the conditions and they're not meeting the useful years. Or they're meeting the useful years, et cetera. So what we're planning on doing, so we don't end up in a bottleneck like we did this last year with 8 plus 9, 10 vehicles needing procurement, and then this year doing it again. We're gonna spread them over these next 6 years. We've talked to Benny. He thinks that he can expand the life of the buses beyond useful life, and that we can actually spread these out so that procurement is balanced in the future, rather than we get 7 to 12 years out from now and we're looking at these large procurements that the state could never, or our local match doesn't fund. So if we do 2 this year, we'll be able to do probably about 5 next year. We'll see how we do and try to balance those out and keep going and put it at a more steady pace rather than this current bottleneck that we're stuck in.
And part of our strategic plan will hopefully, look at 10 to 15 years into the future and try to split it all up so we're not there. And also, we were hoping, if, the book balances become a little more positive, to start a capital reserve fund to cover some of the local funding, even if it's just a little bit every month that we put aside. Put it into a CD account or something that we can build on. So we're less dependent on so much of the public help to, and donations and everything to get us forward. So we like it, but we're not gonna say no.
That and then some.
Yeah, that's you can keep those hands out.
When I look at total revenue for budgeted fiscal year 27, 8,133,550.
Mhm.
And then we're back on that line that Devin just called out, total expenses before capital match, 7,827,514.
Okay.
So in the line below it in blue, total income
That's
before
matched.
capital match, so that is $306,036, so we're actually, in a good situation in that we're spending 300,000 less than we're taking in. And the only thing that I was just trying to figure out and understand is, why are we subtracting carryover capital from that $306,000? Because is that capital amount built into the budget and now we're taking it away, or?
So what it is all the projects that were in that line that you see less capital carryover is everything that's now being carried over that we haven't purchased yet. So we have to put it into FY 27, the demo and.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's subtracting from that surplus that I think we're having, so, okay.
right, so she subtracted that
Yeah.
local and then the new local. to
Yeah,
this.
okay.
And just, when we did hit the bottom line and we were there, we had the shave, and one thing that went was security this year. So we had budgeted in some security for the transit center, but we have found, and with talking and staying in contact with, the city, PD, that they are actually just having a cruiser down there with lights on and stationed there. So I think for whatever reason, they found value in keeping that place in peace and order. So, and that has been at zero cost to us because we cut the security back in January. So, that was one thing to go, look, there was something else where you were like, it's marketing. We had to shave
We
off.
shaved off a little marketing, and then we saved a bit of money this year because we don't have any outside accounting, so.
It's,
We'll have to enough.
yeah.
Well, we had bumped it up a little bit because we were looking forward to, we obviously have our 50th year coming up, and we were looking forward to doing some little special things, but we'll still be able to do quite a bit. Just,
It's 2 lessons.
no, just have to give away frisbees instead of water bottles, I don't know. Having some, we're gonna have our shirts, the new
Yeah.
shirts come out with the logo on.
Any questions? Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna ask one more, just because I don't understand it,
Okay.
the grants. Are they grants? Is that money that is given to us to put into an account, or that's not? That's by invoice. We send them an invoice and then they pay.
Yes.
Because,
billed.
I look at what the staff has done for fiscal year 26. They've really tried to balance everything, and then I'm looking at a 300,000 deficit. And why is that? And it's, because of the grants. And when I look up here, for example, under the first one, the federal grants, and like the PM federal, that grant, the year end projected is only 722, and up front, we thought we were gonna get 1,049,000. So that is just because we weren't able to bill against that
Right.
grant, okay.
Right. And
what, oh, I'm sorry, and what we found too is, I don't believe things were being, I think we did a better job of finding out that expenses weren't going to PM that should have been.
Yeah, well, that's from your notes.
Yeah,
That's
we're
what
trying
I'm
to-
saying. That's
yeah,
a nice
exactly,
thing, that
so-
the new budget will
Yeah.
more clearly target
Yes.
the amounts that are truly in those
Yes.
line items.
I think electricity is a good example. It was housed under one big electric bill, but we have 4 different bills. So, and 3 of them are in PM and 1 is here. So you'll see
The
that.
water bill was all going to the admin.
Yep.
The water bill is 90% washing trucks.
Right.
And we get separate bills, but everything was shoved into admin and then divided, but. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and because it's government, there's no asking them that it could be applied to something else. It has to stay in that category.
And the other big one is the the PTG grant. They gave us $875,000 this year. It's gone already. It's, that's the match that we use, and we had $33,000 left over from February. We needed 110. So, and then March, April, May is all local match.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
the trying months.
These are the trying months. So when we see where this is really gonna, hopefully by next week when we have the main board, we'll have a projection for the rest of the year to see where we're gonna land. And maybe it'll make this look a little better. Maybe we're gonna have a little more to carry over.
They
We
will.
hope. We are forever optimistic.
Yes. Would you mind switching up so we can see?
Oh, to see the people that call. Thank you.
Are there any comments? Questions?
I guess my one further question or comment is, so as it stands right now, this cash deficit would come out of, sorry, that I'm sort of struggling with this one. This 166,000 is local match beyond what is budgeted. Is that correct?
Yes, this is, the budget you're looking at is what we call the operating budget. It's all of our operating costs. The capital.
No, I get that. What I'm
costs-
saying is, like, okay, at the end of the year,
Yep,
is this saying we are running a deficit of 160,000 for local match?
Yeah. So what we did was, we looked at all of the operating revenue and expenses and made sure that was built in first. So that blue line at the end where it says total income before capital match, we then said, okay, what do we have left to pull in to match our capital so that we can do new buses and finish some carryover and all those great things. And it was 306,000. So then you see that carryover and the new capital, we used every penny of it to do what we could. So what's depicted in those last 2 tables are the carryover and the FY 27 capital that expenses that line right down to 0.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So we won't be adding anything to the fund balance, but we won't be running a deficit either.
That's the plan.
Excellent. That's all that matters to me. That is great. And if we do better on revenue, then we may see a little,
Then we put
income.
it towards the capital, investment, um, uh,
The
account
fund
that we'd like
balance.
to, the fund that we'd like to start building.
Yep.
Yeah. And just a reminder, did we resurrect any, and did this depict the resurrection of any of the reductions? Because I know
Yes, we did talk about. We talked about hopefully being able to resurrect a few. I mean, I think we put that into the ops. And I was very cautious with the ops budget for drivers. And then, we put money back in for the drivers, and then, obviously they're expensive across the board and.
if I remember, the scenario we went with was, so what we're finding is that hour on the in-city, where we have the 2 routes running on the hour, we had reduced 1 bus, so it's 4, now it's 3. And that really is a low-level service. It is, I mean, you're riding a bus for an hour and 45 minutes to get across town and back. So what we're looking at doing is, that would be a reintroduction if we can afford it. We were looking at, I believe it was December, January, to do the second half of the year. And the idea behind that would be to sustain that moving forward. And then the other one was this, I think it was the Saturday Fair Day, was the other one that we proposed. Don't know if that made it into the budget, but I think we proposed it.
We proposed it. I think we'll see where we stand in
Yes.
6 months. I think we'll have a better idea. I think it's gonna be touch and go based on what is going on in the world right now. And, we don't, I mean, our fuel, our diesel could be $5.50 a gallon next week. You know. It's gonna really cut, it really already cut into this by about 150,000.
And we are doing the Women's World Cup and Spartan.
Yeah, we put those in for, we added on to the incidentals for, we did Spartan last year, so that's already in there. We have the Women's World Cup coming back, which is, we built quite a bit for that for Killington, and then, but still, there's costs associated with that, so it's not all revenue. And then, there really was just, anticipating good news from all the outreach being done. And being able to keep a much closer watch on where we spend our money.
I think the greatest exercise was the fact that we implemented QuickBooks at the same time, building line for line while doing this, because that really transformed.
You cannot do that in the old system at all. You can't drill down. You just can't. In any way.
Awesome. Okay.
So is this as is, heading to the board next week?
Yeah, so we would be looking for a motion to recommend to the full board approving the FY27 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great work, team. Really exciting stuff. And now I'm really excited to actually use this as the backbone to compare against throughout the year. I mean, it's awesome. Really great work. I know I'm shocked by how much you guys were able to do in such a short amount of time. It seems like it's sort of never ended, right? You dealt with the FY25 issues, then FY26, and then right into FY27. So hopefully you can catch a breath after this one. Okay. Other business.
I do, but I wanted to see if anybody else had.
I have one minor thing. Next week's meeting, I'll be bringing Bailey Phillips from Castleton to be joining the board representing VTSU. Bailey works in Res Life. She's a young professional. I think she'd be a good fit. Her mother works at actually CCV, so they have connections to right in Rutland. So, I do, however, the meeting starts at 9:30 next week, correct?
And
Oh, 10. Okay, I'm sorry. For some reason, I had it on here at 9:30. I have to do a presentation at CCV that morning. So I will swing her by and then I'm going to have to leave. So I will not be able to attend the meeting next week.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that is okay. Along those same lines, so we have Matt who's stepping off, who's on the executive committee. He will need a replacement. We have Billy Gillum, who's on the executive committee, who has a replacement in line, municipal rep. And then Chris Condon, who is on the executive committee, we have his replacement that has been approved by the board. So we are looking pretty thin on the executive committee. So I think it would make sense if we are going to fill these, approve these new commissioners next week, that we would also appoint to the executive committee before, at least to cover the gap before reorg. When is that? July, August, September, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
July, I think.
And you've got me until June. So I'll be there through
Oh,
the June
okay, great.
meetings.
Okay, great. I didn't know that, Matt.
Yeah,
So
I will stay on through June. My last day for the campus is the 19th, so I feel I can do those meetings if you folks want me to stay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So that's one less we have to worry about. If he's through June, then we'll just deal with that position in July. So really it's Billy and Chris then for the short term.
Albert made the point too, Tracy also without a replacement.
Right, right. So we have another at-large member position open. And it'd be great to have somebody from that healthcare sector. But Tracy had mentioned somebody and we haven't heard from them, so I can try to circle back with her. Okay. All right, that's all I have on that. If you want to take it away, Jade.
Okay, so I was just looking to see if this committee had some ideas and feedback. Part of the fair's reimplementation, we'd like to do a business summit, maybe held at the economic, the, right?
Economic development.
Yeah,
Or Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, I forget their acronym. But do a summit there, get the businesses together, talk about the benefits of supplying fairs or offering employee passes to their employees. I know that there's federal tax benefits, and just share some of the benefits of being a supporter of this as a benefit to their employees. And then just talk about more or less the structure of what these businesses are looking for and just open it up to businesses. And I didn't know if that engagement piece sounds like a good option, or if you had any insight, if it is, where we'd end up. So I was just curious on what this committee thought about that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I like the thought of outreach,
Mhm.
because,
Mhm.
you know, people may be there and then may think of other opportunities that the bus may be able to fill, you know.
Come at that angle in the presentation, the opportunities to outreach.
Yeah.
Structural.
Because I think about that in my community. How can I or we outreach to people that live in town that, hey, we have the bus, comes to town 3 times a week, and, you know, and there may be a group there that's thinking that, well, geez, we transport, you know, the preschool kids, you know, we may have an opportunity there. But they just, it might register with them that there's a different opportunity that may be able to be filled by the bus. And by outreaching and bringing that to them, they may get the thought that, yes, there is an opportunity.
Tyler and I are
Agreed.
working on creating you know, in the follow-up to the letters that we sent out, especially for, when going to the board or standing in front of a group from any businesses or even just the leaders of the business, having different PowerPoints that focus in on the services that are provided to that area or that business in specific. So this would be more generalized and definitely more of a summit, in my head anyways, that it would be more of a summit where it was a collaborative effort. Yes, the outreach, but also what are the needs, and we're gathering that information and bringing it back so we can better support their communities.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay. Oh, I'll take that.
Okay, anything else? I think we're all set. Okay. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week and we'll adjourn at 9:53.
All right.
So I'll just bring Bailey by before the meeting starts, and then I'll head to CCV. Sorry about not being able to attend with her, but I promise
she'll
to
be
do
all
it.
right.
Yeah, I promised to do a presentation, and for some reason I got the times mixed up, so apologies.
We'll take good care of her, Matthew.
All right, thank you. Bye now.
Bye. Bye.